Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ulf Jönsson, and together with François Lamachan, we are working for a team in Ericsson responsible for the NFVI infrastructure, portfolio strategy, and business strategy. I will start this presentation by asking you a question it's a very similar question what I asked yesterday in another session. How many of you think that we have an NFV architecture that's ready for the 5G era? Hands up. 1, 2, not many. And I think you're right. I don't think we have an NFV architecture that's fully ready for 5G yet. But I think we know what it will take to evolve the NFV infrastructure, to evolve it to become ready for as a 5G cloud infrastructure. And that's what our talk will be about. So because cloud NFV is a foundation for the evolution to 5G. We all know the history. Telco operators started with dedicated and purpose-built hardware and equipment for the telco applications. In the recent years, they started to move to virtualization of the telco applications running on COTS hardware. Some advanced operators even have started to deploy their shared cloud infrastructure running multiple VNFs on a shared NFV infrastructure. However, as you probably heard many times during these days, this journey has been very slow. We still have less than 10% of the operator traffic running virtualized. And this is really a big worry right now, because as we move into the 5G era and the 5G networks, that will be cloud native applications. So what this means, we need to speed this up. We need to ensure that our telco platform, telco infrastructure is evolved so it can support a distributed cloud infrastructure, network slice orchestration, and containerized microservice-based cloud native applications. And all of this is according to the 5G architecture standards. And the journey, it has already started. So if you look last year, we started to have the first live deployments of virtualized packet core running on VM-based infrastructure, typically OpenStack-based infrastructure. This year, we have the first introduction of the non-standalone 5G packet core applications. Also, they will be VM-based, running typically on OpenStack environment. But as we move into 2019 and beyond, what we now will introduce is a standalone 5G core solution. And all of this will be cloud native, running containerized from start. And we will have a dual mode core with both 5G packet core and 5G core, all running cloud native. So what we then need to ensure is that the cloud infrastructure, the NFV infrastructure, can adopt and add also container as a service capability platform using Kubernetes. However, this transition will not happen overnight. For many years, we will need to be able to have an infrastructure to support a hybrid infrastructure, to be able to, in an efficient way, both handle VM-based applications as well as containerized and cloud-native applications simultaneously. Okay, so how do we then need to evolve the NFV infrastructure to meet the needs of the 5G era? What we need is a distributed NFV infrastructure. And the thing that the distributed NFV infrastructure needs to be handled, there are 5 main things that this infrastructure needs to be able to handle. The first thing is that it must be able to have an infrastructure that enables a distributed infrastructure to be able to run new telco workloads that require a distributed infrastructure. Here we have vRAN, for instance, we have the 5G core applications, but also new edge compute and content distribution applications. We also need to ensure that this NFV infrastructure also enables the network slicing beyond just mobile broadband, to also be able to provide slices for enterprise verticals, media, IoT, and so forth. And these capabilities of this new NFV infrastructure need to be possible to expose, both to within the operator, so that you fast can build your new operator-provided services on top of this new infrastructure, leveraging the new capabilities of the distributed NFV-I, as well as also expose this externally to other industry verticals so that they can build their services and generate new revenue streams on top of this infrastructure. As I said, VMs and containers will coexist for a long time. So the distributed NFV infrastructure, we need to support both Kubernetes and OpenStack environments for a long time. But as you build that, it's really important that things like SDN, Cloud SDN, the networking part is common, a common solution in the hybrid NFVI. We can't have, as we see in many cases, one SDN solution for container, another one for VMs. We need to have a common solution for SDN for both VMs and SDN. The same applies for the software-defined infrastructure. We also need to be able to have a common software-defined hardware infrastructure that can cater for these hybrid environments. What we also need to, last but not least here, need to also cater for is we need to think about the operational readiness of this distributed NFVI from start. Because in this hybrid environment with VM and container, we can't again have one proprietary lifecycle management for VMs, another one for Kubernetes, another one for software-defined storage and so forth. No, we need a common automated lifecycle management that can handle all the parts of your distributed NFV infrastructure, as well as handle both your central deployments as well as your distributed deployment using common lifecycle management and orchestration. So with that, I leave the floor to Francois, who will go into a little bit more details about these capabilities.
Thank you, Ulf. Yeah, maybe if you can stay on that slide a little bit longer and maybe reflect on the early question from Ulf on do you believe we have a 5G ready infrastructure? I guess if you look at that slide, to some extent we have, right? Because if you look at OpenStack and Kubernetes, which is the foundation of what you need for not only existing VNF but also cloud native, they both have some, flavor of federation or distribution or multi-region that allows you to deploy multiple instances and share identity and some of the software repository and so on. Then if you look at the SDN layer, which is quite critical as well from that aspect, then all the, let's say, major modern SDN solution, they actually do support advanced networking functionalities like layer 3 VPN, eVPN, and so on, that will allow you to have a seamless connectivity between the centralized core and the distributed edge. Also to your mobile backhaul and your enterprise VPN and federation across operators and so on. I mean, all of this is reusing traditional IP VPN type of setup. So I think the technology is there, right? I mean, we have pretty much all the technology bricks. But when we look at our experience of deployment through the service providers, then we saw that a lot of operational aspects and of course a lot of integration points may still not be clarified, right? And I think that's where we're a little bit struggling. We got the question in the previous session as well about VNF onboarding. You think like 5 years later that will be something that is very easy to do, and we still, I mean, it's much easier to do very clearly, but I think we're still it's still not so easy to get like a one-click onboarding of a VNF, especially the complex VNF, like packet core, IMS, I mean, all the complex core applications. We get Kubernetes that arrives, and that is very mature for some applications, but a bit less mature for others. Like when we talk cloud-native application, talk about data plane constraints and requirements, SRIOV, DPDK, SmartNIC, and so on. It's not all, let's say, solidify, the way the industry is going to implement those advanced applications on Kubernetes either. So I think where we are going is, you notice that, sorry, going back one slide, this automated lifecycle management, I think that's something that we kind of discovered the importance. I mean, it's been there from the day one. Like when the first time you install OpenStack, we all started by writing some Python script or whatever to automate the OpenStack installation. But release after release, it took more and more importance, right? I mean, this lifecycle management tool becomes, because of operational constraints, of doing the upgrades of your NFVI infrastructure, of adding new components, of doing live patching and so on, it becomes more and more important. And now, when you look at where we are today, and if you look on the left-hand side, right, like, I mean, let's start with those centralized data center picture. Then, it's not only OpenStack. I mean, of course, you see OpenStack is quite complex, many different projects, right, that you have to, initially kickstart and install and bootstrap and configure, right, to get your stack running. Now you get Kubernetes as something that needs to be supported. Some of the infrastructure management, how do you manage your switch, your data center gateway, the physical servers, and so on. SDN, storage, SDS, some additional O&M components, backup and storage. So along the NFVI journey, we figure out NFVI is not about OpenStack, right? It's actually one component, but there is much more across the NFVI solution that needs to be solved. And those things, they are not all covered in a proper way by the installers. I think pretty much all the installers, they know how to install Ceph and install, some flavor of SDN. But I think when you look at the complete picture, and when you look at also the ability to do a number of things, like being able to support multiple VIMs. Now, you may have a Kubernetes instance and an OpenStack instance in the data center. You'll very likely end up with multiple OpenStack instances, right? I mean, as hard as we work on ISSU type of things for OpenStack, we end up with different versions of OpenStack because maybe not all the VNF are ready to be migrated in the same night to the new version of OpenStack. They have not been all fully tested or validated, or operator doesn't want to take the risk. So we have to live with the fact that there will be different concurrent versions of OpenStack running and maybe different versions of VIMs. So you need to make it work across all the components of NFVI. You need to make it work across multi-VIM. And by the way, now we talk about distributed edge. You need to make it live across, tens or hundreds of NFVI instances, of NFVI deployments. So that creates a lot more complexity in terms of lifecycle management. You have to do the hardware inventory, patching and upgrade of the host OS, upgrade of the individual components, how to reconfigure the whole stack when you upgrade one component with SDN and you have to hook it up back to Kubernetes and OpenStack. So this is actually one area where we believe, I mean, we are of course actively developing that lifecycle management tool across our own OpenStack release, and so does any major NFVI vendor. I mean, all the major NFVI vendors, they have their LCM tool, and they're evolving to support distributed cloud and Kubernetes and so on. But I think this is an area where we should look at a little bit more of industry cooperation, right, and industry alignment, because it becomes something very complex, something fairly advanced, and something fairly critical. Now, if you have this LCM tool, you want to have it centralized, right, that it can serve multiple VM, multiple sites. You're not going to replicate it, across the entire domain. And it is something that needs to be rock solid and something that needs to be pluggable, because different operators will have different choice of individual components, fabric, servers, SDN, and so on. And as much as, for instance, we try to maintain a cohesive stack, we are still not there, and we will never be like a unique stack, right? A unique stack for the whole industry. So I think that's what we need to recognize. But one of the things that we need to maybe align better and cooperate better is around that LCM tool. Of course, also very important, the interfaces, how this LCM tool fit into the underlay hardware management layer. I mean, you can have simple solution like Ironic or MAS or whatever to do your bare metal install. But in many cases, you may have built or developed across the years, an operator-specific LCM management or a vendor-specific LCM management. So getting an open interface also, so that, you can have the hardware management done in one layer, but feeding into the NFVI LCM component is something critical. And also to coordinate the NFVI LCM with the Mano and the orchestration layer, so that you can do rolling upgrades and things in a more coordinated way between the infrastructure and the VNF. So it is one thing. Then the second thing that is maybe not so obvious is Kubernetes and OpenStack. Probably pretty much half of the talks have been around that. But I try to summarize a little bit, the different deployment options. And I think in some slides you will see steps. They are not necessarily steps. Don't take it like we start on the left and we move to the right. Those are really options. And of course, there is a notion of evolution where, some operator may start at one point and then, move to a different instance. But they will have to make the choice also based on their current requirement, specific constraints, and initial application, of course. The first one that is the most obvious is basically, well, if you need to introduce cloud-native application and Kubernetes workload on OpenStack, the simplest model, and by the way, that's how Kubernetes is deployed today most of the time in public cloud or on top of VMware and so on, you just overlay it on the existing Vim, right? So it is a natural choice as well for OpenStack to do that. And then in that case, what you do, you overlay your Kubernetes instance on top of OpenStack, you allocate big fat VM, right, on each of the servers, and then you deploy a Kubernetes instance, and then you run the lifecycle of your container application on top of that Kubernetes instance. Good point of this, minimal investment, evolution cost, and so on. I mean, if you already invested in a complete NFVI, it was a lot of pain for the last few years, right, to get this to work, get it in production. Now, you know, you may not want to reinvest and risk a complete redeployment for the first initial application. So I think this is one natural model that fits well. And by the way, running Kubernetes on VM does not necessarily mean significant performance degradation. In many cases, it could actually be better performance because of some data plane, you know, aspect and so on. So it's not necessarily something that will impact your performance. That really depends on the use case you have. You have many containers, many VMs, or many Kubernetes instances, or do you have this big fat VM, right? Second option, and that's, you know, also valid, but it has different constraints, is to say, I will keep my current OpenStack deployment standalone, and then I will do a parallel deployment of Kubernetes, right? Side by side, not one on top of the other, really side by side. I mean, the nice thing is that you don't create any dependencies, right? Past is the past, future is the future. You get two different stacks. You run different application, even potentially different team or different location. That's kind of a, you know, greenfield type of flavor that is appealing to some operators to say, okay, that specific application, that specific site, let's start from a French start. Let's do directly on Kubernetes. That's obviously one option, but there is also a lot of constraints. I mean, lack of business continuity, problems of, you know, supporting the same VM on the different site, doing double work. I think those are aspects you need to take into consideration. Then there is one that is more an evolution of the first one, I would say, if you look at this model C, which is really like you deploy Kubernetes as your under cloud. Okay, where you, by the way, can support some early cloud-native applications, but you can also support the OpenStack control plane, right? So running OpenStack control plane on top of Kubernetes. And that has the advantage of leveraging Kubernetes, you know, properties to actually, you know, do better lifecycle management and so on of OpenStack. Also, you know, you do only one under cloud. It's not like in this model where you have two under cloud to maintain. Now you have only one under cloud. And by the way, you preserve all your OpenStack backward compatibility because this control plane is a full OpenStack. And the node that will run your VM, they will run a full OpenStack host, right? So you have 100% backward compatibility in that model. So this kind of hybrid is something interesting, but this is more of an evolution in a way of the first one. The advantage you might get is you also run containers natively, although you have to think whether you want to run those on your under cloud that is more infrastructure. I think that's a question. Then the final one is, let's say, let's go all Kubernetes. And if you need VM because of security, I think it was mentioned in the previous presentation, like Kata containers, you know, how I can secure my VMs, or you want to run even legacy VM, there is a way to do it over Kubernetes. So in that way, it's, you know, like one single track, but can still be backward compatible for the application VM. But then what you break is all the backward compatibility of your NFVI stack, all the components of the NFVI stack, all the orchestration, all the management, all the OpenStack APIs are gone, right? So that is, of course, you know, something that is much more disruptive. Just some reflection on the different integrations. So this is model A, you know, you run Kubernetes on top of OpenStack. One of the nice things you get, you know, like multi-tenancy out of the box. Even if it's not fully supported on Kubernetes, you can have multiple Kubernetes instances running on OpenStack. One thing you have to be cautious is that Kubernetes can come with its own storage, its own SDN. If you want to be efficient, you need to create some level of integration that you coordinate the SDN and storage layer here with the storage layer underneath. Other option, that was the side-by-side. You can do that, but you see, one way of getting a consistent NFVI is that you reuse the same ONM, SDN, SDS, and so on, which is first not so easy to make sure they work equally as well on both models. But also you need to redo the integration, and now that we have not one integration point, like Kubernetes to OpenStack, no, you get many integration points, Kubernetes to each of those underlying components, right? So that's something to consider, is definitely more work. Model C, hybrid things. Something interesting that I wanted to bring up is the OpenStack Airship initiative, initiated from AT&T. And I think it's very interesting because not only provide, you know, this type of model, actually reusing existing project like OpenStack Helm and so on, like how to run OpenStack on Kubernetes is not really new. But the really interesting piece of Airship is that it also tries to address the LCM aspect together, right? So, and you see a lot of those components like Shipyard and Deckhand and Promenade, and there is a number of those. They really try to address the complete, LCM, layer for deploying an OpenStack instance. Not to say it's ready to use. I mean, there is missing component. If you want to achieve this picture with the centralized inventory and so on, this is not where Airship is already at today. But there is actually a foundation of not only the technological foundation, but also a project where we can get more collaborative around this LCM tool. Final slide, really on the, virtual container technology, been mentioned also before. We had on one side container, the other side VM. Now you get Kata containers, and on the history, there is a couple of other technologies that are helping to get a VM very lightweight with shared memory and so on. So if you have an application that requires a lot of VM instance per server, then this is quite important that you can have this shared memory and also very quick boot time. So if you have some application that requires the container type of characteristics, so not especially, some of the telco NAV, but maybe some of the, like a more enterprise-specific workload, then virtual container is great because it gets all the benefit of containers, or pretty much all of it, but then it's really secure because then you run it with a hardware virtualization. And the way it works, I think is pretty clean, at least in Kubernetes. The same way that, for example, you had the CNI for plugging your SDN controller of choice. Then you get the CRI, the container runtime interface, that is also open. There you get a choice of a different runtime interface. I pick one, and there is others that are equally as valid. But what I wanted to show is that it's very modular in a sense that you can pick and choose your runtime interface that itself can use different runtime backend, right? And it means you can run pure containers and you can run Kata containers and even VMs in parallel, right, in that model. So even though we believe that this is more like a long-term evolution because of all the existing, VNF requirement and deployment and history, there is a way forward. There is, a way forward that you can get this common environment in the long run. So summary takeaway, I think, yes, NFVI needs to adapt to the next new 5G speed. I think everyone pretty much aligned on that, distribution, containers, edge computing. Containers and VM will coexist for a long time. I mean, it's not going to be transformed overnight. And also some application actually doesn't benefit so much from containers, so they will stay on VM for a longer time. Even enterprise, we always talk about enterprise and so on, but many of their applications are running on VMs. A lot of the OSS and IT space as well. So we really need to preserve the coexistence for a long time. Distributed doesn't mean that Kubernetes is for the future. I mean, Kubernetes is for tomorrow, but let's make sure that we get a hybrid. Distributed NFVI, we can do that with current OpenStack and SDN. I don't think we are raising any red flags, but beware that the complete NFVI system is something that is complex, including the management, orchestration, and other O&M aspects. Overlay Kubernetes, if you want to get it tomorrow, that's how it works. You get it. And again, not necessarily any performance penalty, so that's actually a great option to get started. Then, of course, it means you have to deal with 2 layers, right, at least initially. We need to evolve the NFVI LCM to support this distribution level and hybrid containers. And, we can evolve to a pure Kubernetes world, but that smooth transition, even though it's possible through, Kata containers and many other things, it is something that will take some time because we need to get the whole ecosystem ready, including orchestration, including the VNF. And that's why we believe that this coexistence will make sense for some years.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.